Hey guys, in this tutorial I will show you how I modeled this tire by using Aarray Mesh, the ZModeler Brush and Booleans. Before we start, I want to inform you about my free beginner hard surface course for ZBrush. In this course, I will guide you through the ZBrush UI and introduce you to the main tools we are going to use. We'll start with a warm-up exercise to practice the necessary workflows, and then we'll dive right into creating a VR headset step by step. So if you're just starting out or want to have a more detailed explanation of my workflows, this course is perfect for you. You can access the course through the link in the description. Alright, so for the tire, I'm going to switch to the gizmo, click the gear icon and turn on the cylinder 3D. Let's rotate that by 90 degrees by holding down the shift key and squish this together a little bit. Let's turn on polyframe. Let's switch to the ZModeler Brush and activate the insert and single edge loop functionality. And now let's turn on the dynamic subdivision and crank that up a little bit, just to kind of see what effect we are getting. Okay. So let's turn that off for now. I'm going to paint in a new polygroup right here by pressing down Alt with the ZModeler brush and hovering over the polys. And now I can Q-mesh that in. Now I'm going to switch to my multi-edge loop functionality and turn on interactive elevation, because I want to give this some more curvature on the side. So I'm just pulling right here and slowly go one step up to get something like that. Let's check that with dynamic subdivision. Okay, that looks nice. Switch back to the insert, single edge loop. Let's put into edge loops here that we later can then extrude inwards. To do that, I will switch to my bevel brush, edge loop complete. Let's give this a small bevel, switch to the extrude and polygroup all, and let's extrude that inwards. And to hold these extrusions, I'm simply going to bevel these edge loops slightly, click to repeat the last action, and check. Okay. So, same thing here. Let's duplicate that piece because I want to reuse the circle for the later rim setup. So I'm simply going to duplicate that and hide that for now. Now I can come back to this one. Let's turn off dynamic for now and switch to our Q-mesh brush, polygroup all. Let's check if this is sharing any polygroups, and indeed it does. Let's simply grab that, Control W to give this a fresh new polygroup. Let's also turn on double, get a better understanding of what we are having here. Okay, and now I can use Q-mesh to simply Q-mesh this through, and now we have this tire isolated. Turn on dynamic again. And I really don't need this anymore, I think, so simply going to delete that. Okay. Let's give this some darker color as well. Cool. Let's create some ridges for our tire. Let's first crank up the resolution here a little bit more to get a cleaner result. And for the ridges, I'm going to use a really cool feature, which is the new mesh extraction. It's a new addition to the masking brushes in ZBrush. And so basically, instead of masking your mesh, it will project a mesh on top of your mesh. So it will do something like this, for example. But we can also switch the masking functionality. For example, I can switch to rectangle and turn off square, and now I can freely adjust my alpha and project a mesh on top of my previous mesh. So I'm simply going to get a thickness like that, put it here, maybe a little bit thinner. But let's first split that portion, split mask points, let's put that down. Turn off the dynamic subdivision here. And the next step is going to use Aarray Mesh. Turn on an Aarray Mesh, lock position, reset. And now let's go for rotate in the X amount, put in 360, and let's crank up the repeats. Let's also create a new folder to keep everything organized. Let's call that tire Booleans. Put these new mesh projections in there and turn subtraction on, as well as turning on live Boolean. And now we're getting this effect. Let's find our original mesh, repositioning our gizmo. We can also just press the relocation button right here. And now I can just rotate this mesh and see what results I'm happy with. Let me quickly, let's do a quick save first, and let's cut this mesh right here because I don't want to penetrate this middle strip right now. And I'm going to choose the bend curve. Let's give this one more point here, and now I can pull this down and this a little bit upwards. And you can get really creative with that. It's a lot of fun. So okay, so for the rim, let's turn on the mesh from before. And I'm simply going to grab this middle section right here and delete hidden. Let's turn off dynamic for now and turn on double. And now I want to bridge those two edge loops. So I'm going to switch to bridge, two holes, and click on this edge and on this edge. Control W to give this a single polygroup. And let's switch to bevel. Bevel these corners. Turn on dynamic. Let's scale this up slightly. And also outwards. Maybe give this like a metal. Okay. Switch to the insert single edge loop and let's turn off dynamic. Put in an edge loop here. Sometimes the insert edge loop is not working properly, so what helps is to move the edge loop from the outside of the circle inwards to resolve that weird issue. So let's mask portion. Let's switch to our masked circle. Let's turn off Boolean for now. I think that looks cool. Unmask everything, switch back to bevel. Let's bevel that edge. And also give this some importing edge loops in the middle. Let's turn on keep polygroups. We have something like that. Let's do that here as well. Dynamic. Okay. And let's turn on like Boolean again. And now we can move on to the detailing of this rim. So for the detailing of the rim, I want to use Polypaint to kind of sketch in my shapes and designs. If you want to know more about that workflow, have a look at my Polypaint to Mesh tutorial. But yeah, for that to work best, I need some topology with like even quads. So for that, I will duplicate that mesh for now and hide the original. And let's go to Dynamesh. Let's choose something like 1.5. Let's first apply the dynamic and delete the lower subdivision. Very cool. Let's give this a brighter color and then switch to something darker. And I already got my solid paintbrush activated. So now I can paint on that freely. And to make it more interesting, let's turn on radial count with 5. And now I can freely sketch on this rim and come up with all sorts of cool designs. So let me see. I think I want to come from down here and kind of stay parallel to this edge. Come up here again and then close that rectangle. Okay, something like that looks cool. And then we can put in another triangle here maybe. Okay, and once you're happy with that, I'm simply going to press from Polypaint. You can find that in the Polygroups tab. So Polygroups and then from Polypaint. Where is it? Here. So now we've got that isolated. I'm just going to press G for auto groups. And now I can just isolate those, delete hidden. And I'm just simply going to grab these right here. Let's turn off symmetry, delete hidden, give this one polygroup. And actually before we do that, let's go a few steps back. Control click in the history to later project our reconstructed mesh on top of our original mesh if it loses shapes by any chance. So now I'm going to use polish by feature and symmetry by half until I get a decent result. Something like that looks really nice. And then I can do a project history to get back the original curvature, but I think it still was holding up pretty well. And now I can bring back the original tire geometry. Let's turn on dynamic thickness and go back to Aarray Mesh, lock position, reset, and X amount of 360. Obviously, we have to go into the rotate and repeat of 5. So now we can keep working on the single mesh and have our instances mirror these operations. So let's hit apply here, and I want these shapes to be a little bit more interesting. Let's go back to our subtool list, create a new Boolean folder. Let's call that Rim Booleans. Put these in and turn on subtraction. And to make it a little bit more interesting, I will also give them this metal material, but make them a little bit more darker, so we get something like that. And now what I'm going to do is I will grab these parts from behind, auto groups, because I just want to grab this piece. But what I'm going to do instead is I will bring up the gizmo, control click on this polygroup here. So now the other polygroups are going to be masked, and now I can freely scale and move this inwards however I like. So I'm thinking just want to scale this in and move it backwards. And maybe just scale it in that direction. So if I feel like my mesh is not smooth enough yet, I can still do a polish by feature. Kind of move it in place however I feel fit. Let's go to the other mesh, control click this polygroup right here. Now I can move that in. Same thing with this one. First we have to do an auto groups on these polygroups as well. So for me that's on G. So now I can control click this plane and adjust that to my liking. And when I'm happy with that, I can make that even more interesting. For example, I can come in with the ZModeler brush, switch to the insert, and then we can choose a position where we would like to add in another panel cut, for example. Let's say here. So now we got an edge right here. Let's also put one in here as well. Here, for example. And now I'm going to switch to the bevel brush, bevel that edge, click on this edge as well to repeat that step. And now I think they share the same polygroup, so I can now switch to the extrude, polygroup all, and extrude that outwards. It's actually not sharing, but not that big of a deal. Just simply going to click on that edge to repeat that step. So now we got an additional ring in there, which is really cool. And now I'm simply going to hit crease polygroups to keep these edges tight. Go into the dynamics, crank this up, turn off thickness. And now I can adjust my creasing level to get something like that. And if you want to go even more crazy, you can still come back to your mesh extrusion projection brush and switch to something like the circle. Let's put that back to square. And by the way, if you press spacebar and then control to activate your masking brush, you can change the intensity and by that the thickness of your mesh extrusion. And so with that activated, I can now come in and add to the booleans of my mesh like that, which is so cool. Let's maybe put in a small one right here. See how that looks. Yeah, I definitely do like that. Simply going to split the mask points. So now I got that separated as well. And I think I want to add one in the middle here. So I'm going to turn off symmetry, just going to eyeball that. Split mask. Let's scale it slightly in. And for the last step, let's apply the boolean and use Bevel Pro to chamfer the edges from the cutouts. So let me first check the different subtools. Crank the resolution up here so it's nice and clean, and also give this one polygroup. And so basically what I'm looking for is all the edges that are already smoothed out. They don't need an extra polygroup, so this can be one polygroup. These edges right here, they don't have any subdivision on right now, so they can stay one polygroup, so different polygroups. as well as this piece right here. Now that I'm happy with that, I can go to Boolean with subdivision. Let's select that. Check our polygroups. I'm going to turn off line for that. That looks pretty good. And now I can jump into Bevel Pro. Okay, let's hit reset and turn on auto apply so we can see our result in real time, as well as switch this to chamfer instead of bevel and hit OK. And yeah, once we are through with that, we can still come in and separate these different meshes because all the polygroups are still intact. So I can separate this, fill that with like this metal and that color. These maybe are getting this material, darker value, and let's give the rim lin material. And that is how you can quickly design your own tires and rims in ZBrush. So if you want more insights of my workflows or want to get a better understanding of ZBrush, look at my free beginner hard surface course, which I designed to be easy to follow as a beginner. You can find the link in the description. Until then guys, take care.